Star Trek, the original series' only two-part episode, created one of the franchise's best tropes. The only two-part episode of Star Trek, the original series, created a Star Trek trope that's been used in some of the franchise's best episodes. TOS Season 1, Episodes 15 and 16. The Menagerie sees Mr. Spock Leonard Nimoy defy Starfleet's General Order 7, which dictates no Starfleet ship may go to Talos 4 under penalty of death to save Captain Christopher Pike Sean Kenny. Spock lies to Captain James T. Kirk William Shatner and Dr. Leonard McCoy DeForest Kelly, falsifies orders from Starbase 11, and confesses to mutiny before turning himself in. Spock's subsequent court-martial used footage from the first Star Trek pilot, The Cage, as evidence in the proceedings, because The Menagerie was written as a cost-saving measure for TOS. In-universe, the chopped-up version of The Cage serves to explain why Spock would risk his life for Captain Pike Jeffrey Hunter. The trial and video are actually projected by the Talosian into Kirk's mind as a distraction, so Spock can get Pike to Talos 4. While Spock's trial isn't real, the format proved popular enough that later Star Trek shows would expand the courtroom drama genre. The Menagerie created Star Trek's courtroom drama trope, while the original series' The Menagerie created the franchise's courtroom drama. Star Trek's return to the courtroom in TOS Season 1, Episode 20, Court Martial, established the trappings of a proper Starfleet hearing when Kirk becomes the first Starfleet captain to face a court martial. Starfleet Command's panel of judges, Starfleet dress uniforms, and the lighted device that witnesses swear upon in a secular future have all become staples of Star Trek's courtroom episodes. Even the prosecutor being well known to the defendant comes from TOS, with Kirk's old friend Ariel Shaw Joan Marshall competently arguing against Kirk's defense. Like in the relevant TOS episodes, Star Trek effectively uses the courtroom as a backdrop to explore the morals and motives of characters. All the physical elements of a 23rd century Starfleet courtroom came back in Star Trek Strange New Worlds Season 2, Episode 2, Ad Astra Per Aspera, now updated with modern production standards. Star Trek: The Next Generation established equivalent 24th century proceedings in Season 2, Episode 9, The Measure of a Man. But predicting new technology and proving humanity has advanced beyond conflict of interest are only small parts of Star Trek legal dramas. Like in the relevant TOS episodes, Star Trek effectively uses the courtroom as a backdrop to explore the morals and motives of characters. When Star Trek, the original series, aired in the 1960s, it broke barriers with its forward-thinking storytelling, revolutionary special effects, and socially conscious narratives. Yet one of its most impactful innovations came from an unexpected place: its only two-part episode, The Menagerie. This single story arc didn't just repurpose an unaired pilot into a cohesive and thrilling episode, it also introduced one of Star Trek's most enduring and powerful storytelling devices: the Starfleet court-martial. While the original series TOS typically followed a self-contained episodic structure, The Menagerie stood out with its ambitious scope, emotional depth, and clever framing. The episode aired in 1966 during the show's first season and ingeniously recycled footage from the unaired pilot The Cage. By doing so, it gave fans their first real glimpse into the pre-Kirk era of Starfleet, introduced the enigmatic and emotional history of Spock, and laid the foundation for one of the franchise's most dramatic and morally complex formats, the trial episode. The Menagerie as a framing device. In The Menagerie, viewers are thrust into a courtroom aboard the USS Enterprise as Spock is accused of mutiny. His crime? Hijacking the starship and taking his former captain, the now severely injured Christopher Pike, to the forbidden planet Talos 4. What follows is a riveting courtroom drama, interwoven with flashbacks from The Cage, where we learn of Pike's first encounter with the Talosians and their illusion-generating abilities. Rather than simply flashback-heavy exposition, the trial format allowed the writers to deliver two key benefits. First, it gave emotional weight to the events of the past by showing how they influenced Spock's present-day actions. Second, it provided a unique window into the procedural and ethical structure of Starfleet, one that resonated deeply with the franchise's core themes of duty, morality, and individual agency. The birth of the Starfleet trial trope. With The Menagerie, Star Trek established a trope that would go on to become a favorite across multiple series and films, the courtroom episode. The idea that even heroes like Spock could be subject to the same laws as everyone else underscored the egalitarian ideals Gene Roddenberry envisioned for the future. It also offered a platform for introspection, ethical dilemmas, and gripping character drama. Unlike the phaser battles or transporter malfunctions that usually filled out TOS stories, the trial setup brought tension through words, silence, and the rule of law. Spock's calm demeanor as he pleads guilty without explanation is as thrilling as any alien encounter. We are drawn not only into the mystery of his motives, but also into a debate about loyalty, sacrifice, and the rigid structure of command. This moral complexity and structural intensity set a precedent that Star Trek would return to again and again. How later series embraced the trial format. Once The Menagerie opened the door, future Star Trek iterations didn't hesitate to walk through it. Courtroom episodes became some of the most emotionally resonant and intellectually stimulating entries in the franchise. In Star Trek: The Next Generation, the trial format reached new heights with The Measure of a Man. In that episode, Captain Picard defends Data's right to autonomy against Starfleet's desire to disassemble him for research. The ethical question, is Data a person or property, echoed real-world debates about personhood and AI, and cemented the courtroom episode as a key storytelling tool. Likewise, Deep Space Nine featured the gripping tribunal, in which Chief O'Brien becomes the victim of Cardassian justice, highlighting the stark contrast between Federation ideals and authoritarian regimes. In Voyager, the Equinox touched on a trial-like confrontation with the crew of another Starfleet vessel, raising thorny questions about survival, betrayal, and Starfleet's code of conduct. Each of these stories, in some way, can trace their DNA back to The Menagerie. It wasn't just a two-part special, it was a prototype for exploring Star Trek's deepest values. Why the courtroom format works so well in Star Trek. Courtroom drama works in Star Trek not just because it's dramatic, but because it aligns perfectly with the franchise's intellectual and moral mission. While many sci-fi shows rely on spectacle, Star Trek has always prioritized ideas. Trials naturally center on debates, dilemmas, and character motivations, making them ideal vehicles for Star Trek's exploration of ethics and philosophy. They also provide opportunities for previously secondary characters to step into the spotlight. In The Menagerie, Spock becomes the emotional heart of the story. In The Measure of a Man, it's Data. These moments peel back layers of iconic characters and let the audience see the full breadth of their emotional and intellectual depth. Just as importantly, the courtroom setting gives weight to consequences. In a universe with transporters and warp drives, it can sometimes feel like no action truly matters. But when a character faces judgment, especially from their peers or their own institution, the stakes suddenly feel real and personal. The Menagerie also cemented Spock as the franchise's conscience. It's impossible to talk about The Menagerie without recognizing what it did for Mr. Spock. His decision to disobey direct orders breaks Starfleet's most